Thank you for joining us. This is Paul Wilson.
And Justin Tyson.
And you're listening to Diesel Performance Podcast. Guys, it's been crazy over at the shop. We're having a huge sale right now at Duramax Tuner, Calibrated Power. You can actually save 15% off of EasyLink tuning. Justin, you've been around since EasyLink tuning has come out. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about why people love this tuning platform so much?
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things where the ease of use, the user interface is amazing. Coming from, Paul and I have both been here for a very long time, so we've seen us go through just tuning ECMs to EFI Live, and then this thing comes around, and we're just like, what? Just seeing how easy it is to use. The updates automatically just go to you just go straight to it. You don't have to essentially plug in, download, all those things, use a program. It's really nice. Works through your iPhone or your Android. It's just amazing. It gets the tunes to you quickly. You don't have to wait for anything sent to you. Once you have the EasyLink unit, it comes, flash your truck, and you're good to go. And it's the same tuning we've always had. It's great custom tuning, always pushing it forward, just on a different platform that is right now all the rage. I mean, that's all anyone kind of wants sometimes.
You make such a good point there, Justin. I do remember when tuning, even when EFI Live just hit the scene, and the box programmers that were out before EFI Live or HP tuners and other custom tuning platforms, the box programmers just basically threw a bunch of fuel at your truck and turned the boost up and turned all the limiters off. And that's really what a box tuner did. And then EFI Live came out, and all of a sudden it was this awesome graphing, and there was this mapping that we could do to really, really refine the tune for ultimate drivability, which was great. But the big complaint we always had was the hardware. It's not exactly user-friendly hardware, especially with the availability that technology has kind of presented us over the years. A lot of the other hardware companies, a lot of the other platforms out there just have missed the mark when it came to capitalizing on what technology was available. And that's where EasyLink said, hey, you know what? Build your tune files, bring them over. We'll help you map them. We'll help you work with them. They're great to work with from our side, from being a custom tuner. And the reason that matters is because on your side as an end user, you get all of these great benefits. You get all of these awesome tunes that have been very well tested, very well developed, and you get them in like Justin said, an easy to use platform. Some would say the easiest to use platform. And I think that really is what makes all the difference. But don't take my word for it. Jump on Facebook, jump on Google, fire up whatever your online magic machine is, and look for some reviews over the EasyLink tuning. And I think you're going to find that the Calibrated Power Duramax Tuner EasyLink tunes are loved by the guys who are running them. So you can take total confidence in jumping on, save yourself 15% right now. Go over to DuramaxTuner.com. You can order those right online or give us a call at 815-568-7920. Justin, speaking of some other really cool stuff going on, I wanted to talk about some of the projects that we have worked on in the past with Exergy and with WC Fab. And right at the front of my mind just pops up the Roxor. This is a little side-by-side 2-liter turbocharged diesel that we love. It's a little mini Jeep, right?
Yeah, for sure. She's fun.
So we have a 5-speed manual in it. It's diesel. It's 4-cylinder. It's turbocharged. It's common rail injection. We can tune them. Hey, we went out. We built some turbos for them. Well, to match up with that turbo, we knew we were going to run out of air if we didn't have an intercooler. Boom. Worley steps up, says, no problem. Let's work together. We developed an intercooler kit with them. So those are exclusively available through DuramaxTuner.com. And, listeners, you've heard us rave and rant about how great WC Fab work is. That's why when we wanted to build a product for our company, they're the ones we went to work with. It just made sense. Now, that intercooler kit for the Roxors is going to be landing in the shop very soon, any day now. Could be up by the time you hear this episode. So again, make sure you give us a call, talk to us about that. And right alongside with that, we know the intercooler and the turbo can get you up to about 140 horsepower. Keep in mind, these things come at 52 horsepower stock. So we can get you up to about 140 horsepower with a tuner, a clutch, a turbo, and an intercooler kit. You want to go 160? We can set you up with a custom spec'd water meth kit for the Roxor. No problem. We got those. But if you really want to hit that 200 horsepower number, the only way to do it is to upgrade your high pressure fuel pump. Now, these high pressure fuel pumps, while very, very similar to CP3 architecture, run a very different gearing internally to get that high pressure out of the pump. So Exergy took the time to actually custom build us a couple of CP3 conversion kits specifically for the Roxor. They are very pricey. They're not available to the general public. It has to be somebody who's a real enthusiast and knows what they're doing. So if you say, hey, that's me, I have to have 200 horsepower, no problem. Again, we have literally everything you need to set you up to be able to do that. And I just think that's a really cool way to look at that Roxor that, yeah, it comes at 50 horsepower from the factory, but there's just so much overhead. There's just so much power left on the table that you can capitalize on.
It's been funny for us. Paul and I deal with all the marketing and everything, and watching Nick go from just tuning it to being like a turbo to being like, wait, an intercooler. To harassing Randy from Exergy about a pump. It's been a fun process to watch, and it's just a cool machine. Paul and I get to go out when we're filming this stuff, and it's just awesome to see these things in action. They are a lot of fun.
Man, this thing is a blast. And speaking of a blast, one of the trucks we know that guys love to drive is a third-gen Cummins with a big single turbo. And Justin, we've talked about it on this show before. We've written blogs about it. Those big single turbos, while it's not necessarily what I want to drive every day, there is just a thrill, just a total excitement of being able to get behind the wheel, feel the lag, feel that anticipation, and then boom, all that boost hits and the truck just runs like a raped ape. So we brought on a guy today to talk about that. Joshua McCormack's going to be coming on as our listener ride review and talking about his 2005 Dodge with a big single turbo. So without any further ado, let's kick it over to the interview. All right, guys, and now it's time for one of my new favorite segments. This is our listener ride review. We're kicking off these segments because this is where the show started, man. This is how we built Diesel Performance Podcast, was literally reaching out to diesel performance enthusiasts like you and asking you to come on the show and talk to us. So today we have a very special guest, Joshua McCormack. How the hell are you, Josh?
Oh, doing all right, man. Trying to stay alive in this crazy world today.
You said it. Well, hey, when we put the post up, I know you jumped on and got really early onto the schedule, so I'm sure you're super excited to be on the show. But kick us off at the beginning, man. How did you get your start in diesel performance?
I started out with my father, who did agriculture and then went into underground drilling. He always had a 12-valve truck, and yeah, pretty much like everybody else that gets in diesel, their dad or uncle or grandpa got them into it. And I started out with 12 valves, and up until recently, I was pretty much just doing 12 valves, and finally just got tired of them leaving stains in my driveway.
Well, you've certainly stepped it up from the old dinosaurs, which we, of course, have a lot of love for. But tell our listeners, what truck are we going to be discussing today?
So I got my 2005 quad cab short bed 3500 single rear wheel truck that we're trying to just turn into like a monster street truck. Obviously, it's no longer a daily driver, but it's something that I can put sled pull setup on, be competitive, put some radials on it, and be competitive. Put it on the dyno, which seems to be all we do with it these days, and be competitive. And then also, dirt drags. So we got our sights set on like King of the Street, hopefully Diesel Power Challenge if we get enough votes, and any event that I can make it to this year.
That's awesome, man. Big plans. You've certainly got a pretty good list I'm looking at here. Walk our listeners through, what do you have done to the truck so far?
Okay, so it's a 2005. We put a 6.7 short block in it. Right now it's running a Hamilton high test block, a Hamilton crank, Waggler as forged Street Fighter rods, QSB pistons, diamond or trend, however you want to call it, tool steel wrist pins. We're running a Freedom Racing engines, cylinder head, Hamilton cam, Hamilton tappets, power driven diesel push rods. We have a single 488 from Force Inductions on a Comp Steed Speed T6. And then we have 5 kits of nitrous. 4 of them are on a controller. 1 of them is on a push button. We have a power-driven diesel 2,000 horsepower 48RE in it. And then we just put some Yukon axles in the front, axles in the back with carriers. We have basically a ratcheting locker in the rear, a limited slip up front, and then just hit the regular Dodge stuff, new ball joints, new hubs, new brakes, control arms. And then we're running tuning from my man Gordon. And we're still using the factory 848, which makes for some awesome cold start videos.
Okay, well, like I said, that's a pretty impressive list of mods. How long have you had this truck, man? How long have you been working on this build? Who the hell's honking at you? Tell him to back off.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm out here in the middle of nowhere. No, I bought the truck. A guy was going to trade it in. The dealership was kind of killing him on the trade in, and I told him I'd give him $1,000 more. I bought it 3 years ago. It started out as a daily driver tow truck to tow around my racing 12-valve truck I had at the time. I put actually one of your guys' Stealth 64s on it at first, and then as the 12-valve stuff kind of I got tired of it. It became like 1,000 horsepower, true daily driver. It could still tow a trailer, and I wanted that big single, so we put a 6.7 engine in it. Just a factory 6.7 bored 20 over with 12-valve rods. We had that set up for almost a year and a half, and last year at Truck Mania, like halfway through a drag strip pull, all of a sudden the truck lost a ton of power, pulled it in the pit, popped a freeze plug, and probably some other damage that we didn't know of at the time. And like any sane American, I had just driven 10 hours, so I drained all the coolant out, changed the oil, and we won the dyno competition without coolant. And then best number it ever made too. It did 1362 on fuel only. And then we sent it on the sled pull track without coolant as well. And we ended up tearing it down. It bent all the rods, scuffed the pistons, thrusted the crank. I mean, the crank was junk. It thrusted the crank back. But for the record, it was a 20 over 6.7 block, and it made over 1,000 horse for about 18 months. So I was thrilled. And then, I reached out to everybody that was kind of somewhat supporting, and I was like, this is what I want to do. And, right away got hooked up with DDP, and now the thing's got 2 12-mil stroker pumps, a 6.7 rail, a set of their super mentals. They're like 116 liters per minute. And then we got to the point where we run 2 air dogs. The second one kicks on as soon as the pedals pass 50%, because the one just wasn't cutting it. And like anything, we went out to the first event this year at ATS, and we did really well. We did 1325 on fuel only, running the injectors about halfway. And I was like, well, these rods are rated for 1,500. This block is rated for 1,500, and we're already there, and we haven't turned on the spray. So again, like any logical American, I bought a comp wet block. So we're building a new engine for it already. And I want a 2,000 horsepower truck that I could still drive on streets is the goal.
That's a tall order. Okay, well, that's a good goal to have. I like it because this has some sort of purpose, right? Like you're hitting a lot of dyno competitions. I know out there on the kind of west area, that's a real big deal. That's a real part of it. Are you guys starting to find some dirt drags out there? Are they starting to pop up more often?
They are. I noticed a lot more events now are doing like dyno and dirt drag or dyno and sled pull, which is kind of how that truck took shape. Is I was like, I wanted to be able to do all 4 events. Like last year, we took the truck up to Idaho to the Ultimate Diesel Throwdown, and it was awesome. Like we came first place big single, first place unlimited on the dyno, first place in the dirt drags, and then second place in the sled pull. Or maybe it was third place, but just like I like going to an event where all I'm doing is changing tires and just, giving it the wood.
What's been the most challenging part of this build so far?
I would say like the biggest challenge is definitely tuning. Obviously I rely heavily on Gordon and I just give him really inexperienced feedback, but I would say tuning's been pretty hard. Setting up the fuel system, like figuring out how big return lines needed to be. And then, I mean, I work for Power Driven Diesel, and they do the trans work. It's been really hard getting a tranny to stay in there. Because you're asking it to do so many different things, right? Like, I want it to do rolling burnouts into overdrive, and I want it to still sit and stop and go traffic. And like, I mean, last year we were stress testing it. We had my truck on a gooseneck hooked to the 05 doing 4-wheel drive boosted launches with it. And, you know, we seem to have it. I mean, this is the most miles I've gotten on it without having any issues. So far, so good. I mean, we really been hitting the R&D. I mean, we've been shattering planetaries. You know, second gear bands are just kind of a thing now that it likes to eat through. And it's been really hard on like the forward clutch pack. And we kind of, I mean, this year we kind of changed it up a little bit. Because again, I mean, most guys will sled pull with it, or they'll daily drive with it, or they'll tow with it, or they'll drag race with it. I want a 7,200 pound truck to be able to do all four at, 13 to 1,500 horsepower. I don't care what tranny you put in there. That's asking a lot. So we're getting really good at transport.
I hear that. Okay. Who's helped you out with this build? I noticed you mentioned Gordon, which, we got a lot of love for Gordon. You mentioned working over at Power Driven Diesel, so I'd imagine your coworkers. But who else has been involved on this?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so first and foremost, like my family. I have 2 kids and a wife, and they tolerate all the late nights and the crazy money that we spend on this thing. And then obviously all my coworkers, especially Meyer. He's the one that, like, when we're up till 3 a.m, always there. And then we have Hamilton Cams came through huge, obviously Power Driven Diesel. Wagler. We have Air Dog came on board this year. Yukon came on board. Gordon's the oldest of them all. Gordon's been helping me out for almost 6-7 years now after I left my previous tuner. We have Fluid Dampener is on board, and then Dynamite Diesel. Like, everybody has their own injector company that they favor for certain reasons. And to be honest with you, I can call them up, tell them exactly what it's doing, and they get it fixed. And it's usually like I can get it there in a day, get it back in a day. And whether they're the most expensive or the cheapest game in town, customer service, getting stuff back and forth, especially like for competitions, like they've been a huge help there. And yeah, we had Longhorn Fabs kicked in a little bit on it too. So we've had a lot of companies, and it's not always like, a lot of people always think it's free parts and stuff like that. A lot of it to me is just being there when I need something, when you call and you get that tech support right away. That's huge. That's the companies that I have on board. That's why most of them are on board, is because if I have an issue, they're really quick to answer and get me taken care of.
I dig it, man. That does mean a lot. Any final advice for our listeners?
If you like your wallet, you probably shouldn't be in this sport. But if you like, I don't know, there's just something so crazy about 135 miles an hour in a 4-wheel drive full weight truck, trying to stop it. It's always a good time. But yeah, I mean, buy the right part the first time, and stay off eBay and Amazon. That would probably be my best advice for you.
There you go. That's solid advice. Hey, if our listeners want to jump on and follow along on social media and kind of see the progress of this monster, what's a good way for them to find you, Joshua?
I am just a Common Rail 24V on Instagram, and there'll be a picture of, I don't even know, one of my trucks on there, and I'm pretty active on there. A lot of people hit me up, ask me questions and stuff. Or if you want to troll, I'm game for that too. Doesn't matter.
Joshua McCormack once quoted as saying, "I love trucks, guns, and bacon." Jump on Instagram and follow him right away, guys. For today, this has been Paul Wilson. Joshua, thank you so much for joining us. I know our listeners are really going to enjoy this one.
Appreciate you having me on, Paul. Thanks.
Have a great night.
You too.
We're really going to enjoy it.
If you like your wallet, you probably shouldn't be in this sport. But